Hello, YouTube. We're live. This is Cafe Esoterica Radio. We're about to start our show. It's been 6 months. I'm sorry, lots happening. I'll catch you up on everything in a minute. Please join me with my guest, Chris Evers from Outer Limits Magazine, all about UFOs, aliens, the whole alien agenda. Here we go. For 37 years now and counting, which is why I am so proud and honored to bring you the authors and practitioners in the know from the mind, body, and spirit compendium of life, as well as practitioners and experts. Wonderfully and back in the saddle again and raring to go for a season of Cafe Esoterica Radio. Call in on 516-387-1809. If you're outside the United States, it's located at the end of our landing page. Can't catch us, not to worry. You will find us on many formats. Tune in, cosy, Stitcher, YouTube, and app. The brand new latte, cappuccino, and come on in. Welcome back, everyone, to Cafe Esoterica Radio on Blog Talk Radio. I am your hostess with the mostest, Shawn Cohen. That's me. And, well, we've been away. It's been a good 6 months. Stuff happens, when you're busy planning your life, other things come up. And so I took a longer hiatus than expected. But we're back. We have a great season ahead, a beautiful season ahead. I have booked some of the best guests. I always book great guests, but my guests now are even they're reaching a higher level of awakening and enlightened consciousness. And that's what my show's about. So if you've never seen my show live on YouTube, if you've never heard of it, let me give you a little premise so you know what we're about. My name is Shawn Cohen. You heard in the intro. I am a psychic, a medium, a metaphysician, and author of 4 books. And I've been teaching esoteric knowledge, metaphysics, tarot, astrology for 37 years now. And I am American, but I live in London, and I've been here since 1985. So I have quite a wide sort of audience and a wide understanding of many, many subjects and things. I also was a nurse, and I'm very interested in holistic medicine. So my show is a combination of spirituality, metaphysics, holistic health, and anything in the alternative sort of viewpoint. I am here to awaken hearts and open minds. And my guest tonight, my very first guest back, is Chris Evers, who has a wonderful online magazine called Outer Limits Magazine, which I happen to write I write a column for, amazingly enough. He asked me to a year ago, and it is absolutely right and true that Chris is my first guest back as after our hiatus. So I'm going to get to Chris in a minute. I need to give you a little more show news and catch up on a few things. So since I've been away, as life is, things change. So our phone number changed. So if you want to call into the show tonight and talk anything and everything about aliens, UFOs, disclosure, have you seen a UFO? Have you met an alien? Have you been abducted? What's your story? We're going to talk about it tonight with Chris. And our new number is 858, which is actually San Diego, California, okay? But it's 858-956-3204. And you can call in and we will take your calls. And I'm gonna interview Chris for a good half hour or so, and then I will pick up the phone for callers. If you would like to be on the show, maybe you've got something to say. It has to be in the mind, body, and spirit genres of life. It has to be either holistic medicine, spirituality, everything I just mentioned. And I am a big fan of music. So if you're the odd rock star and you want to come on, by all means, do. We have some very interesting guests lined up. One of them has to do with rock, actually, and I'll talk to you about that in a second. So you can get in touch with Shawn, that's me, at Cafe Esoterica. So that's 2 E's in there, CAFE ESOTERICA @gmail.com. And, tell me your story. And if your story fits the show, by all means, I'll be glad to have you on with pleasure. And the other thing that I'd like to talk about is the upcoming guest list, which is just amazing. We have so many great guests coming up. So let's just go through. This is my little contribution to the world. I just feel so happy and proud to bring these guests to you. They are absolutely amazing, each and every one of them. And they don't get it on the show if they're not totally and completely open and awake and aware people. Their subject matters are as vast as they are, but each one, I feel, has something really amazing to share, and that's why they're on Cafe Esoterica Radio. So here we go. First one, of course, is Chris Evers, right? That's today. Next week, July the 4th, I was going to have a certain astrologer on who has, unfortunately, can't make it. So I don't know yet who is going to be on next week to replace him. I'm looking right now for a guest for July the 4th. I did ask, somebody asked me recently, they haven't got back to me, so I can't even announce them tonight because I would have done. But if we don't have a guest, it's all right. We'll do something. Don't worry. I can always pull cards or, do something. July the 11th, we have Francesca Cassini, and Francesca is amazingly enough, we have in the women's movement, we have the red tent, and my dear friend and colleague, a goddess herself, Katie Sophia, who was also my co-host for Cafe Esoterica's Astrology Summit last year. Katie does the red tents, and so Francesca does the silver tent. So women 50 and above, right? Women like myself with gray hair or whatever can come and gather and meet, and it's not competitive. It's full of love and support. And boy, do we need that in our world today. So we're having Francesca on. The following week, July 18th, we have Fiona Dilston, who is a homeopath. I'm a big supporter of homeopathy. I always have been. And I raised my daughter with it. And so homeopathy with Fiona. And Fiona's specialty is losing weight with homeopathy, which, you don't really hear in the sort of, weight loss industry. You hear things like, the keto diet and this, that, and the other thing. So let's talk about that, because health is important, and feeling good about yourself and feeling happy in your own skin is extremely important. Okay, let's move on. July 25th, we have Maria Cronin, who's a naturopath. So we're in this kind of, mind, body, and spirit story. We're moving down to August the 1st. This is what I was talking about, rock stars. I had a story go into a book called David Bowie, I Was There. And if you, which is amazing, but in 1980, must have been 1989, I was living in West Hampstead, and unbeknownst to me, walking down the street at night, I had just broken up with someone. I was living in a flat where he had moved out. It was a pretty bad breakup too, and I was walking down the Kilburn High Road, not far from where I live now, actually, but and on the corner was this big, well-known place for rock called, I think it was called the National, right? And yeah, the National. And I could hear David Bowie singing. I couldn't believe it. I knew it was live because you could just tell the difference. And I was outside the venue, and he was singing. I heard, Life on Mars. And I was thinking to myself, is that David Bowie? How can that be? Anyway, I moved back and I saw the sign Tin Machine. And I knew that David had created a new group called Tin Machine. So so they were looking for, something came up on Facebook. Do you know any stories about David Bowie? So I told this story, how I wasn't inside the venue, but I was outside the venue. I walked home. That really lifted me to know that David Bowie was singing that song. And it just was an amazing synchronicity. And I just walked down, because I saw David in Pittsburgh, where I'm from, in the 70s. It was just amazing. Anyway, so I walked into my flat. I opened the window, and I could still hear the whole concert. So it was a really special moment. And that story got in that book, David Bowie, I Was There. So now, weirdly enough, I'm in another one, and Richard wrote it, and Richard's written a lot of books like this. He didn't write that David Bowie book, okay, someone else did. But Richard Houghton, Houghton, Led Zeppelin, I Was There, and I'm in that book too. So he's my guest August the 1st. That's going to be a great show. If you love rock and roll, he's written a lot of fan books, so these are what people who've actually been at the venues, met them, whatever the story is, he's written quite a few of them actually, and he's still writing them. So he's got plenty of stories left, and plenty of books he's working on as we speak. Okay, moving on to August the 8th, Petey Silvera. Now, Petey and I go way back. Petey asked me to be on her show many, many years ago, Pathways to Healing radio show, which I was on, got to be 10 years ago. And Petey is actually coming to London, weirdly enough. And Petey is a past life regressionist, a therapist, and a healer like myself. And she's just written a new book. So I'm very pleased and proud to have her on my show as a wonderful, and she's probably going to sit here with me actually and be live in the studio with me. And then August, I'm just going a little more and then we'll get to tonight's show. August 15th, so you can mark your calendars if there's something you really want to watch or something you really want to listen to. I say watch because I am on YouTube as we speak. I'm live on YouTube. If you're listening to me, Blog Talk Radio, if you're listening to me on that, great. If you're listening to me and you want to see me broadcast, then just come on down. I'm live streaming on YouTube. Just go to youtube.com/Cafe Esoterica Radio and you should find me. Okay. So the next show, is August 15th on our rota here is Linda Moon. She goes by Moon Zlotnick, and she's an astrologer and an author. I love my astrologers, so I always have plenty on. And a repeat guest who I love and adore, my dear friend, Jackie Shawn, goddess of the holistic beauty industry. an award-winning makeup artist, and she's coming in to talk to us about all those nasty chemicals in beauty products and women's products that we girls and women should not be using. Okay, so how to be beautiful holistically, naturally, without crap on your skin that's going to give you cancer, for God's sake. Okay. And September 1st, I have an opening if anyone wants to come in on that. And then September 12th, Catherine Olivetti, a Jungian therapist and dream expert. So you can see we're pretty much mind, body, spirit. Everything's keeping to the rota. And I'm very proud and pleased to present these wonderful practitioners and authors and people to you. There's many dates available in October, a few in September. And now, what else? We're going to, what else? I forgot. Since you've been away, I wrote a book, another one. It's called In This Metaphysical Moment, an Oracle of Time. And it's taking all the in this metaphysical moments that I do at the end of every show of Cafe Esoterica Radio. And I compiled them into a beautiful book. And sure enough, the book's over there. So excuse me while I run and get it. Here it is. And it looks like this, just showing it to my audience there on YouTube. And it is a beautiful oracle. You just open, think of a question. How's the show going to go tonight? Because I have a crappy computer giving me problems. Here we go. And I got a lovely answer. So every page has in that metaphysical moment that I did from whatever guest show this was, and you read the answer, right? And this is all about, interesting, this is another astrologer, and this is all about timing, so that's quite good. But you can see there's plenty of pictures in this metaphysical moment, beautiful. There's Jackie's show. They're all different shows, but the things that I wrote about them, and each one gives you beautiful, beautiful answer to any problem. It's amazing how it worked out. And I was thinking of doing it the whole time. It's about magic, right? Each one has a subject. So it's stunningly beautiful. It really gives a lot of this kindred spirits. And the artists, just different things. So if you want this book, folks, please go to my website, which is all the W's, Tarot by Shawn, Tarot by Shawn Cohen, .weebly.com, or go to my Facebook page, Shawn Margaret Cohen. Now, last thing, so if you want this, you can buy it. It's a great gift too. If you're thinking about giving someone a nice gift, a graduation gift or a wedding gift or anything at all, it would really work for any occasion. Beautiful esoteric knowledge in there. Now, one other thing before I bring up Chris, very patiently waiting, is that I wanted to talk to you about, what was the other thing? Oh God, I just forgot. So I've done the guest list, right? Hold on. Well, I can't remember now, so must be time to bring up Chris. Our new phone number again, if you want to call in, folks, please do. Here it is. I'm just going back to the show page, and I'm going to get Chris's mic up just for a quick second, but I won't bring him up just yet. Just one more minute. Our new number, 858, area code 956-3204. We will take calls in the next half hour, 20 minutes to a half hour. If you want to talk about UFOs, aliens, anything about that subject, because the time has come, people, for us to know the truth. Really, the time has come, and we're going to talk to Chris about that right now. Now, let me introduce my guest. And I want to give him a proper introduction. So here we go. Chris Evers has held a long interest in the UFO and paranormal fields. His interest began way back in 1974 while out playing as a 14-year-old child. He noticed a series of unusual lights moving across the early evening sky over his hometown of Kingston upon Hull. This sparked an interest, and he eagerly read the available books on the subject, mainly titles from authors and investigators such as American Major Donald Kehoe, titles such as Flying Saucers Are Real or Flying Saucers Have Landed. Also books written by Arthur Shuttlewood, namely The Warminster Mystery and The Flying Saucers. Chris continued to have an avid interest in the subject over the years. Eventually, he decided to produce his own desktop publication known as Faster Than Light, a magazine aimed at spreading the news about global UFO sightings. This was subscribed to from diverse areas of the world, such as Australia, Japan, many areas of the USA, and of course the UK. Chris was the founding father of HUFOS, HUFOS, Hull UFO Society, where he was the chairman for a number of years before stepping down and moving on for personal reasons. Also during the 1990s, Chris became an investigator for Quest International under the leadership of former policeman Tony Dodd. Chris also worked alongside noted ufologist Gary Anthony, and they jointly produced another desktop publication known as I Magazine, East Yorkshire Encounters. Just another minute here. During this time period, Chris forged friendships and acquaintances with Tony Dodd, Gary Anthony, Philip Mantle, Graham W. Birdsall, and Russ Callaghan, both of UFO Magazine UK, and also others such as Nick Pope. The latter two contribute to the new Outer Limits publication. Chris continues to have an avid interest in the subject, and because of this, both he and Malcolm have decided to work together on the Outer Limits magazine, which I write a column for called Metaphysical Magazine. And you can find Chris, his website is chris0597.wixsite.com/outer-limits-mag, M-A-G. He's also on Facebook, and there is a Facebook group for his radio show, which is also, it's called Inside Outer Limits Radio Show, and it premieres on the Paranormal UK radio channel. Chris, welcome to Cafe Esoterica Radio. I'm good. Could you hear me properly? Okay, because I had to take the mics out. I had my microphones in, right? I mean, my earbuds and my microphone, because you wouldn't hear the show. You would hear me, but you wouldn't hear the show. The show is on another page, you see? So that's why I had to do that. I forgot. And I think it's important to have both if we can do it. So if it gets bad, you'll tell me, right? Please, because I have done whole shows where I had Michael Luton on a whole show. God bless him. He's New York's finest astrologer. He's in the New York Daily News, and we did a whole show, and you couldn't hear it at all. That was amazing. Right. I'm wiping my screen as we go. Yes. Thank you so much, Chris. That means a lot. Thank you so much. I'm really excited about it, and I love doing it. It's just a matter of, sometimes it's like a juggling act, all the balls in one air, and I'm working with I have two laptops, both of them somehow in 1 week have all fallen apart, but we'll get by. We'll be fine. And next week I should have a new one and we'll be fine as well. So Chris, let's go into the whole UFO story. So let me take you back, if it's okay with you, to your childhood. And you said age 14. I find that 14 is a very interesting age, and I'll talk to you about it on a metaphysical level. But tell us what happened at age 14 for you. Okay. Right. Mm. I know it well. Yes. Go on. What an amazing thing, huh? It's very brave. That's what strikes me. You could have seen it, walked away, said to yourself, I didn't see that, or that must have been the Russians, or some craziness. But you saw it, you witnessed it, you said to yourself, yeah, this is real. This is happening, right? And created a magazine out of it, and a society out of it, a grouping of people who also are looking and seeking the truth. I definitely am a believer. I've seen a UFO myself, and I have, and not only, I'll tell you a quick story, very, very briefly. I emailed you this or wrote you on Facebook chat. I was teaching a group of students in London, 1991, and I lived in, I've always sort of been around this area of London, West Hampstead, Queen's Park, Kilburn, somewhere around there. And at the time I was in West Hampstead, and this is before my daughter was born. And I had a group of students, and they usually come to a Monday night class, 7 to 9 or 9:30. And in the spring, in the summer, like now, it's light out till 10 o'clock. And we took a break. And back then, some of us smoked, some of us were avid cigarette smokers, right? And we went out on my balcony, and on the balcony it was light out, and in fact somebody took a picture of all of us. I have that group photo that I put up on Facebook every once in a while, and some of those students are still my friends today. That it was a very great group. I've had lots of good people come into my life that way, but this was really interesting. So we're out there, it's light time, it's about 8 o'clock at night, just like it is now in London. It's very light out, and literally a UFO flew by, and you could not even think it was anything else. It had to be a UFO because it was the way it was. It was circular. It was like a flying saucer, okay, flying disc. It and my students, we were all like, you could just see the mouth drops one by one by one, and we all looked and said, did we just see what we just saw? And funnily enough, they have no shame. They just show up in the middle of the city, right? And so we all said, well, we just saw a UFO. Isn't that magical? And I remember in one of my songs for tonight, if it plays and I don't get tortured by YouTube about copyright, was John Lennon's, Nobody Told Me, because the line in there's UFOs over New York and I ain't too surprised. That's one of our songs for tonight. If I dare play it, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how we go. Um, go on. Go on. Yeah, I have both their song. Yeah, David Bowie's song "Space Oddity" is the other one. And I wanted to talk to you about this. So this is good. Let's talk about them. Go ahead. Mm, 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 mm. It's interesting too. They collaborated on a song together, which was "Fame," right? And so they must have talked about it ad infinitum, the two of them, right? You can only imagine, be a fly on the wall in that conversation. But I also have, and again, this was one because my computer was having given me such a hard time uploading things and what have you. I might be able to play it. I might. We'll see. But yes, the group, yes, and the album is Tormata, and it's the song is actually called Arriving UFO, and it's all about the same thing. And what, yeah, Well, I wanted to make a comparison between, now look at this for a second, Chris, and then we'll go into so much more because it is fascinating. I wanted to talk to you about, so I have these songs. Hold on, I'm getting all my papers here. Here. So David Bowie writes Space Oddity, 1969. And of course, whether you think they landed on the moon or not, that's another discussion. We'll get to that, right? But you know, he supposedly wrote it because they were going to the moon, right? And that launched his career, basically. And then so you have here in 1978. So look at the dates, right? 1978. Yes, Tomato, whatever it's called, which is a Yes album. I love Yes. Very spiritual, very esoteric group, and John Anderson's voice, gorgeous. And Arriving UFO, you know, that's the song, and the whole album has something to do with UFO stuff and aliens. And then you have John Lennon, 1979. So look where we're going here. This is a 10-year thing. Nobody told me there'd be days like this, and really it's about that he saw a UFO, you know. So we have a lot of UFO in the UFO, the thoughts, the talks, those songs, and their Styx wrote a song about it. So many different groups have written about it. You know, so it makes you wonder, why are we still asking the questions about UFOs? Why are we still not sure aliens exist? You know, honestly. Can you hear me? Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm not saying anything. I'm listening. Can you hear me now? I'm listening. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm just check the Blog Talk Radio site for callers. Not yet. Okay, go ahead. So I think that's, yeah, that's fascinating. That's absolutely fascinating. Wow. You see, I have it in my notes to ask you this, so I think it's a good time. You know, SETI, SETI, search for extraterrestrial, whatever, international. I think that's what it stands for, right? Um, they claim, see, I didn't know that. I didn't know that new information. So that's good that you told me that. And thank you for telling us that. That's great to hear. Right here on Cafe Esoterica, there is life out there for sure. I always knew that, though. I always knew that. I'll tell you a story about myself when I was 4 years old, but let me go back to what we were talking about when we were talking about SETI. Now, SETI claims that they put all these huge, I don't know what they are, communication instruments, trying to receive signals and send signals out. And all these years, 40 years at least, since the 1960s, let's say, right? And and the Moody Blues, another group that talked a lot about UFOs, a lot. In fact, many, many songs in there about UFOs. But there was 1967. There was a really big thing about UFOs, especially in the UK. I know because I was doing some research on the Moody Blues and their album. It's in '67, and that came up anyway. That I saw that, and I was thinking SETI came in somewhere around that time, as I recall. I don't know exactly the year, but somewhere in that time, right? And it's very interesting that how many decades later they're only now saying, oh yeah, we got a signal. Because I don't know what you believe personally, but come on, we all know there's aliens out there. We all know there's different types too. What do you think about that, about all the information about reptilians and grays and the archons or archons, whatever they're called, archons, and the praying mantis type and the Nordic type, and um, what do you think about all that? I'm sure you've heard of that, right? First, yes, wherever out there is, yes, there has to be, right? Mm, yeah. Mm, mm, mm. Yes. Wow, that's so interesting. You know what? Go on, Chris. Things go round in circles. I want to try and put in this song now. Yes, Arriving UFOs on 1978. I don't even know if it uploaded properly, and if it doesn't, I'll stop it. And it'll give our listeners out there a little break to go get a cappuccino, a latte, a drink, whatever they need to do. We've been on air 43 minutes and 56 seconds. I can't believe it. It's gone so quickly already. And we have so much more to get through with our wonderful guest, Chris Evers, all about UFOs, aliens. He's the editor in chief and publisher of Outer Limits magazine, as well as he's the host, the co host of his own radio show called Inside Outer Limits Radio. And so Chris, we're going to have a 6-minute break if this works. If it doesn't work, then I'm going to try some. Okay, good. So we'll be back with our guest, Chris Evers at Cafe Esoterica Radio. And I am your hostess, Shawn Cohen. Here we go. Okay, that doesn't sound right. Let's try that again. No, that's not working. Is it? And we are back. I'm sorry. I do apologize for that horrible tinny sound that came through there. But unfortunately, there's something wrong with my computer. I tried to take it in. It's a big problem. I'm going to end up buying a new one. But anyway, I'm sorry. It sounds tinny. If you love Yes, the group, the rock group, Yes, like I do, and you go to YouTube or anywhere, Spotify, and you listen to their music, you'll hear a lot of esoteric knowledge in it. You will also hear a lot about UFOs and things like that. And that song, if you go and listen to it properly, some nice videos with it on YouTube as well. If you go there, it's called Arriving UFO. It was done in 1978. I was 22 years old then. And there was no there was nothing like there is today. Chris will back me up to have this information. No Google. The newspapers, I don't know if any of them ever wrote the truth, but anyway, we're back with Chris Evers. Hi, Chris. Yeah, that probably, I hear you fine. That song probably murdered the show. I'm so sorry. But I felt I wanted to play it. I just thought, no, I want to play it. Anyway, okay. So let's go back to the things we were talking about. I'll tell you a story when I was 4 years old. Okay. And this is very similar to what happened to you at 14. And there are these Saturn is all about maturity, and Saturn is the planet of karma, and it has to in astrology. And I know you're married to an astrologer, so you probably understand this. But there are Saturn ages: 7, 14, 21, 28. You have your first Saturn return, and so on. So 14 was a big wake up call sort of time for me too. But for me at 4, I don't know what, 4 years old, I was sitting at the top of my bunk bed in my home in Pittsburgh, where I grew up. So if I was born in 56, it was 1960. Okay. And I looked out of my window at night. You were born in 1960, right? And I looked up in the sky filled with stars, and I saw these 3 triangular shapes. And one had blue light, like moving around it. Okay, like it was like the light was almost fluid, moving up in this triangle. The next one was gold, like a yellowy gold, and the next one was white. And I never forgot it. And my little soul, who was very unhappy where she was, said to herself, doesn't matter what happens from there. No, let me take that back. It went like this. It doesn't matter what happens here. I'm from there. I remember that to this day. So, wow, right? And I think star seeds are amongst us. And I think we're all aliens in other lives. I do. I'm sorry, but I have to say it, right? So what do you think about all that? Do you think that in previous lives we've been aliens and this is a life on Earth and another one will be? Yeah. Okay. Okay. There is, I mean, it's a very interesting subject. I've been a past life regressionist since 1984. I've taken thousands of people back to past lives under not even hypnosis, really a meditative state, because we do keep these memories. They're in the subconscious mind. Like you have a memory, if I hypnotize you back to your babyhood, you would know everything, but so we can, there's a wonderful author, doctor of psychology called Dr. Michael Newton. And I would definitely recommend his books because he did hypnosis on for 40 years before he ever even wrote a book. And he's written about the life in between lives, which is our life in heaven, and then how we choose our lives ahead. There's another book I recommend, which is called Your Soul's Plan by Robert Schwartz. Another fascinating study of how we choose to and why we choose to incarnate, if we choose at all. And we don't have to, but if we do. So I just think that if life is a one-shot deal, nobody wins. How can you learn everything in one life and be enlightened? How can you do it? How? You can't. How, and what is enlightenment? I talk, yeah, go on. Go on. No. No, 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 no. The Bible's been bastardized many, many times. That's not to say there isn't words of God or knowledge in there, but every single word? Are you kidding? No, no. Yeah, don't know. Mhm. Yeah, it's another subject for another show because our show is about UFO and aliens, and we're going to stick to that because that's you're the expert, and I want to hear what you have to say about it. Um, so let's talk about, because I can't believe how quickly it's going. We only have a half hour left. I can't believe it. So I want to ask you, yeah, because we're finishing at 8:30, right? So 8:30 UK time. Chris, listen, I want to talk about, you have, first of all, let's talk about your magazine and how people can subscribe to it, and who writes for it, what you write in it. Let's talk about Outer Limits magazine and when you began it and how they can find it. Right. Right. Okay. Mm. Thank you. Thank you. Isn't that amazing? Congratulations. I'm typing in for the, you're very welcome. I'm typing in your, just the link to the magazine on the YouTube chat. So if anyone doesn't know or wants to find it, it's here on the YouTube chat. Let me just get it up there. So it's Chris, I'll say it out loud if anyone's listening to write it down. 0597 dot wixsite.com, and it's / outer limits mag. So you can find it there, folks. Yes. Friends of, and I'm just writing that down, Outer Limits magazine. There's a lot of good stuff that's posted in these in these groups, because I know I'm involved with them too. Friends of Outer Limits magazine Facebook group, right? And your name too, Chris Evers. And can I just give people, is it okay to give an email address for you? Okay. The Outer Limits mag at, is it at? Yeah. That way, if anyone wants you on their show or anything else, then they know how to get a hold of you. And also, let's talk about your convention now. You've got a big convention coming up. Talk to us about that. Let's promote that. Okay, cool. Sorry. Oh. Wow, full story there. And how can they get tickets, Chris? How can they book in or go on? Mm, mm. And what is the date again? Give us the dates. Sorry. My door just shut from the wind with that one. Okay, so Saturday the 17th of August 2019, and it sounds like an amazing. And this isn't the first one you've had. Is this the second or the third? Right. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. See, I mean, it's a very interesting subject, and there are so many branches to it. And if you look at, for instance, years ago, many years ago now, it's got to be 8, 10 years ago, I don't know, Ancient Aliens came on TV, and ain't and what's his name, George with the Greek surname, yeah, George, yeah. Um, you got to give it to him, man. He opened up the subject and brought it to, TV, didn't he? And not that it hadn't been there before. Star Trek, 1960, Gene Roddenberry. But I think it's very interesting. I watched that show like many people, addictively, like every week. Wow, this, that, the other thing. And how can you not be convinced? The thing is though, and here's my $1 million question. Okay, here's my $1 million question. If God created humans, right, then he must have created aliens. And if he created aliens, why did aliens have to give us their DNA? There's a whole thing about the Anunnaki. I'm sure you know this. That took the hominoid human, right, and injected their DNA in to create basically the human race. Now, you either believe God made man and woman in his image or you don't. You either believe that aliens created us or you don't. It's a huge discrepancy, and I'm curious what you think about that. Mm, 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 mm. Well, of course. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Of course. This is only natural assumption. If you even just use logic, logic would tell you that if we have so much, look at the variation of plant life. Look at the variation of animal life, of insect life. Clearly there's a variation of human life, or whatever you want to call, you know, us, for souls incarnating, in my opinion, in different forms, different casings, if you will. And while we're on that subject about the different aliens, and abduction, which you mentioned, people coming to your conference talking about being abducted. I think there's a big thing. This has also been talked about many times on UFO Hangar One and Ancient Aliens and all the different, Jesse, what's his name, Jesse Ventura, and many conspiracy shows that the Greys are abducting and have been abducting humans for a long time, and basically using us as baby factories, basically, and taking the sperm and taking the egg from women, and to save their race. Have you? What do you think about that? And have you had speakers talk about that in your conferences? Mm, mm, okay. Mm, Yeah. Oh, definitely. And I wanted to tell you that even though my group, 1991, my students and I witnessed a UFO flying by West Hampstead, my daughter went up to, with her school group, went up to Wales. And Wales, where she was, very open. You know, there's no city lights, and the sky is filled with stars. She was on one of these, oh, I forget what it's called, where the kids go. It's like a camping thing, and her and her boyfriend, same year as her, same age as her, same class as her, they were sitting on this mountaintop in the evening, pitch black sky, big bright stars, and sure enough, they saw a UFO. And my daughter, as much as I'm very spiritual, metaphysical, she's very grounded. My daughter, she would never tell me that if she didn't see it with her own eyes. So I really was, Mom, I saw a UFO. My boyfriend and I saw a UFO. So, I wanted to tell you another story about a previous guest on my show called Greg Prescott, who runs a site called in5d.com, very well known, millions and millions of hits every day all over the world on YouTube, on the web, right? in5d.com. And Greg lives near where my mother used to live in Sarasota, Bradenton. He lives right now. He's living in Siesta Key, which is just down the road. And he told me he sees tons of UFOs there. I mean, Florida is a hotbed of UFOs, and a lot of them come out under the sea, under the water. So they're actually in the ocean, right? And people witness them coming out, just the lights coming up from the water, from under the water, and then zoom, take off and go. So I don't know if you've heard that or anything like that, but that's fascinating too. Mm. Yeah. Well, they think there's the old adage of, Atlantis being off the coast of Florida, you know, towards Bimini, which is in the Caribbean. And of course, then you have, if you go down there, you're talking about the triangle, the Bermuda Triangle, and where all these ships and boats and airplanes have disappeared, and why have they disappeared? And one sort of conspiracy story after another, it just like a big snowball, it escalates, but it's clear that something is going on, isn't it? It's clear that we are not alone. Yes. Yes. I just saw it. It's funny you mentioned it. I just saw it, believe it or not. I just saw it. Yes. I know. Yeah, I think, yeah. Yeah. Okay, I'd love to read it. I would. I read Edgar Casey's book on it, and I've been a big sort of Atlantis. I think a lot of see. I know reincarnation is another story for another time, but I believe a lot of Atlanteans are back to help bring in what we call, look, there are millions of light workers on the planet as we speak right now. And there's got to be a reason that people like myself are here, people like yourself, people like your wife, an astrologer. People have to find out who they are, why they're here, what's their purpose. And it isn't just because the sperm met the egg. I'm sorry, there's a bigger purpose at work here. And this is my quest, to kind of bring this information forward. Now, Chris, you can't believe it, my dear friend. I can't believe that we're almost out of time. We've got 5 minutes left. How did that happen? How did it happen? Yes, it is. Yeah, yeah. I agree with that. I think it's a never-ending quest. Joseph Campbell said, the great mythologist said that the quest to know thyself is the number one quest of all quests, and it really feeds the whole hero's journey, which we're all on some level. We're all trying to find our way home, whatever that is. Chris, on that note, I got to have you on again. It went too quickly. And thank you so much for being my guest today. I love writing for your magazine. And folks, it is a wonderful, chock full of amazing stories and amazing insights in the UFO, alien, and everything to do with that fields. And also you have paranormal stuff in there as well. And so, Chris Evers, thank you very much for being on our show today, on my show, my first show back as well. Thank you. And carry on the good work. Definitely. I'm going to play us out with Space Oddity by David Bowie. If it works, please God, it does. And because I have to, right? And before we go, I always do my little in this metaphysical moment. And so I'm going to read that. She says, having not in front of me, where is it? It is over here somewhere, here. And no, where is it? My God, I lost it. Hold on, here it is. Okay, in this metaphysical moment. And so our fourth season begins as we wander through our new series of outstanding guests in the mind, body, and spirit fields, those who are in the know and leading the way for others to observe, witness, be like, and see that the future of our human race, our spiritual quest, can be bright, can be illuminated by their light. When the world is in such tumult, when its political leaders all fail us, when we have no idea who we are, why we are here, and what is our purpose on planet Earth, can we not look to those who give us their knowledge, experience, and time? Many are called, but few are chosen. In this metaphysical moment, I ask the bigger questions. I seek to see beyond my own small life and my own little community. I look to the heavens. I look to our star brothers and sisters. I look to the galaxies and their many, many planets, and I know that I am never alone. My work here is to serve all, help all, and love all. On that note, thank you very much to my guest, Chris Evers. See you next week, July the 4th. I don't know which guest is coming yet, but surprise, surprise, we'll see who's with us then. Thank you, everyone, for coming back and listening once again to Cafe Esoterica Radio on Blog Talk Radio. Find us on Stitcher, Podbean, TuneIn, and now on Spotify. And here we go. Goodbye, good night, God bless. David Bowie, Space Oddity, written 1969. Thank you, everyone. Good day, good night, God bless. See you next week. Bye now. And live on YouTube, thank you very much. You'll find us on Stitcher, Podbean, as I said, Spotify, and Blog Talk Radio, which is our home. And please come back again next week. We're broadcasting live every week on YouTube. And we look forward to talking to you and you listening to us. And we thank you and bless you for tuning in to Cafe Esoterica Radio. I'm your hostess with the mostest, Shawn Cohen. And it's very nice to have you on board and listen to my marvelous guests. Thank you so much. God bless. Good night. See you again next week. Bye for now.